Hello everyone. Hello everybody. Hello everyone. I'm here again. Hello everybody. Thank you, everybody. You're all welcome to this music chat room. It's another wonderful time, and I've got a special guest here again to make your day a special one. I've got with me here a singer and a lecturer too, and she's going to formally introduce herself. But her name is Yemisi Bolade Ogunfodun ni Adiwoye. You're welcome to this chat room.
Thank you very much for having me.
So what do you do presently before you talk about what you've been?
At the moment, I'm a lecturer in organizational behavior at Henley Business School in the UK. And I teach mainly management-related topics. I also, I'm still involved with music in my local church, and I do a lot of directing of the music. In that area, so I think I've jumped the topic.
That's fine. That's fine. It's all part of the introduction anyway. Now, as usual, we know that this is a learning session again from practical point of view, where we are bringing new people to talk about what they do. She's classically trained, and then how far did you go in your classical training?
Oh, well, I was very privileged to have been trained by Mrs. Amorel Inanga. As far as the voice and singing is concerned, I actually took some exams. Okay. I took the grade 6 and the grade 8 Muson voice exams. I was actually the first grade 8 candidate, you know.
Okay. What year was that?
It must have been 1993.
Wow.
So quite a long time ago.
I was about to be born.
Yes, so I did that exam. I also took music as one of my subjects at O levels. So, and I had a distinction, which was great to see. My teacher, Mrs. Inanga, was really pleased. So in terms of the education, I did have that formal grounding in music and lots of performance opportunities as well.
Yeah, Mrs. Amorel Nanga was also my piano teacher as well. I had to do some grade 6, grade 6 and 8 with her, you know, wonderful woman. So the first time I saw you, on one of those occasions that I saw you, I noticed that you playing piano. I remember you played Nocturne in E flat by Chopin.
Yes, yes. I remember
how did you do that? Did you go through piano training as well, or how did you get into
so the piano part of the story is that I started having piano lessons at age 7. So I was quite young, and then I stopped after a while. I had a teacher, Mr. Sarpong. He was Ghanaian. He started to teach me around age 10, and then I stopped again after another year. And all of the other things that I learned on my own. So that Nocturne actually was self-taught.
Wow.
That piece, yes. Wow. So yes, I do play the piano.
Wow. That really dazzled me. I hope you can still replay that.
We'll see.
Okay, now, in your singing journey, how's it been?
Okay.
The places you performed?
Well, as I said, I've had the opportunity to have been exposed to performance at a very young age. I think my very first formal performance, I would say, as a soloist was when I was 15. And this was at the Seventh-day Adventist Church, Okebola. So this was my teacher's church choir. And I participated in a concert there as a soloist in Hear My Prayer. So this was that piece.
What year was that?
Well,
I think
it was 1992.
The same concert we played together?
Perhaps
think
you may have been there.
I played
You may have been there, yes.
Yeah, Yemisi
I
Prayer.
think that was 1992. So around that time, I had just done the Muson grade 6 voice exam.
I think I was at the concert.
You were there as
I
well.
was actually the person that played it.
Oh, wow.
So you performed, I played. So that was your formal...
Yes, that was my
great.
very first public performance. And so that was great. And then thereafter, I'd had several opportunities to perform. I got into the university when I finished secondary school, and I joined the University of Ibadan choir under the leadership of Christopher Oyeshiku, yes, now late. And in that choir, I also was given very prominent parts as a soloist and as part of the soprano line. Before that, actually, in between performing, the Hear My Prayer piece and moving into UI, I took, I told you about the Muson exams, grade 6 and grade 8. And when you do well on the Muson exams, you are invited to Lagos to perform and sort of show, what you've got.
I had such invitation as well.
Yes, so that was my introduction to Muson and performing on the Muson stage. And there were quite a lot of distinguished artists at the time. So that was my introduction to Muson, and again with Mrs. Nanga, I learned the craft. I learned to hone the craft
of stage
presence, delivery, communicating the mood of the piece, communicating with the audience, all of that stuff. And so when I finished the university, and again, I was posted to Lagos for my youth service program. I didn't want to stay away from Muson, so I went back there. At the time, I think Mr. Louis Mbanefo was the chairman of the artists committee, and he invited me to come for one of the concerts. And so I got together with my accompanist at the time. We did lots of rehearsals in there, and then we were there. So I've had a few opportunities to perform in Muson, but on the Ibadan scene, I have some friends in Nigeria. I'm talking about Nigeria now. I had friends, Dr. Olunranti is a good friend of mine. He would organize lots of concerts across different churches in Ibadan. I was always there singing with the choir, doing solos. So I got quite a lot of experience singing in Ibadan and outside Ibadan.
Oh, good. Now, can you share with us some of the lists of songs you used to perform in those days? Can you remember the list?
Okay. It's quite a broad range.
Repertoire, let me put it that way.
It's quite broad. I've got some Negro spirituals. I've got some classical pieces from oratorios. I've got some West Indian folk songs. I've got some Yoruba songs from Dr. Oluranti's, compositions.
I think he wrote one dedicated to you or something.
Yes, he did. Ishe Oluwa. I think it's that one. Yes. So I did a lot of Schubert, especially when I moved to perform in Muson. I have some pieces from Schubert that I quite enjoy. The Earl King, Gretchen at the Spinning Wheel, Who is Sylvia, quite a number of them. With the oratorios, I've done some pieces from Haydn's Creation. Quite a lot of heavy pieces there. Those were really heavyweight. I did some of those at some of my Muson concerts as well. So quite a range of pieces that would stretch you in terms of vocal dexterity.
Okay. How many octaves do you cover?
Oh, well, comfortably, I would say, perhaps...
Thinking, let's say from middle C.
Yeah.
2 octaves.
2 octaves.
That means you can pick up the C.
The C at the end, yeah. I can.
Can you remember any song that you had to sing that high note?
Not that particular C. In the Earl King, there were some high notes there and some passages that actually stayed on quite a number of high notes. And you had to learn to deliver the notes softly, but still communicate the emotion as well.
That's quite hard.
Yes.
So how do you do that technically now? If you have to sing that high and then you still have to sing softly?
Well, it has to do with breath control. Because there are several things involved when you're singing. So there you have got the lyrics, the words of the piece. You've got the music and what the music is trying to convey. if you happen to be singing in a different language, you have to remember the meaning of what you're singing. So, for instance, Gretchen at the Spinning Wheel, I sang in German, but I had to remember the English meaning of those words so I could deliver that in my facial expression. So that's that. So you think about the music, you think about the phrasing so that you get it right. But when it comes to the high notes, you've got to make sure that you are breathing correctly and you are dispensing the air that's coming through carefully. So you're not pushing too much out. It's also sustaining the quality of the tone. So all of it has to do with good breath control, I would say.
Now, zeroing in on singing itself, when you have a piece to sing or to perform, what comes to your mind?
The first thing, if it's in English, I'd digest the words of the song.
First, before learning the music?
Before the music.
Wow.
I'd look at the words of the song because I want to get into the mind of the composer and what they intend to communicate to the audience. So once I understand that, it's easier to appreciate what's happening with the melodic line. It's easier to connect with the mood of the piece because ultimately that's what I want to communicate. So I'm like the messenger for the song. And then I look at the melody itself, what the music is like. I look at some of the dynamics in there, whether it's soft or loud, gradually getting louder or softer, you know, or short and crisp. I look at all of those musical terms and signs in the piece. And then I start to learn the piece. So it's, again, an iterative process. So it's not, you know, a series of steps just in one direction.
If it's in another language, what do you do?
Oh, well, first I get help with the language. I remember when learning Gretchen at the Spinning Wheel, and there's another one, To Be Sung on the Waters. It's also by Schubert. I had to go to a professor of German at the University of Ibadan in Nigeria. He's late now, Professor Amano Boado. He was an amazing coach, and he helped me with the vowels and the consonants because I hadn't spoken German before. So I learned how to do it. Of course, I was taught by the best. He was a professor of, you know, that language. And I went to the Muson Center and performed that piece. And I remember during the interval, that particular concert, normally you have, you know, the people from the diplomatic community in Lagos coming to Muson to attend the concert. So during the interval, a couple came to me and said something. And they realized I just kept smiling. I didn't reply. And then they quickly realized I didn't understand what they said. And so they said it in English and asked if I spoke German. And I said, no. Wow. And they said, oh, so how were you able to sing the song? And I explained to them I got some help. Wow. And they said, oh, you did really well, except for a couple of, you know, consonants, the L and another one. Oh. And I thought that was good feedback, you know, and a credit to the person who coached me. So with the words, if it's not in English, I have to get help with the words and make sure I speak it as in, you know, someone who is a native would, and then I add that to the performance.
Now, as a singer, what were the things that you had to go through in training?
Well, that's a lot of work. It's a good question. There is a lot of vocal exercises involved before singing if you want to really deliver on the promise of the song. And vocal exercises help to, you know, warm up the throat, open, you know, the throat up so that you can, you know, take the air in the way you should, push it out in the way that you should, so that you are sustaining the sound and not emphasizing on the voice. There's a way you can sing where you push out too much of the voice and you lose the sound. So the vocal exercises help you to, you know, strengthen your breathing, so that your abdominal muscles are strong enough to deliver those notes.
With my experiences with students, when they come to learn singing, they kind of mix up the chest storage of air and the diaphragm. So how did you resolve that?
Yes, I remember when learning as a 15-year-old, as a teenager, my teacher at the time, Mrs. Inanga, would say to me, oh, sing in this way, or it's too light, you know, to give it a bit of, you know, depth, sing like someone with lots of bosom and all of that. And I didn't really understand what she was saying. And then she would get me some books to read and on the structure of, you know, how you produce the voice, basically. And I realized that, right, if some sounds are too high, if some notes are too high, there's a way I need to adjust how I'm managing the air so that I can hit those notes and be accurate in terms of the pitch, but also maintain the quality of the tone so that it's not unpleasant to hear.
How do you do that practically? Can you say it? Are you able to express that in words?
I'm going to try. Some passages are involve high notes
Or let me put,
vowels.
or maybe foundationally, when you ask somebody to breathe in.
Yeah. Okay, right. So what I would say is, if you're breathing in when singing, breathe in deeply but quickly. So I'm breathing in and expanding my rib cage rather than raising my shoulders, if you've noticed.
Yeah.
So that's how I breathe in instead of.
Okay.
So
do you need to do that at any point in time while singing? Does it
every
happen?
time you sing, you're breathing. Yes, every time I sing, I'm breathing. You need to breathe.
The right way.
Oh, yes. Yes. Again, it's about the posture. So many times, it's best to stand if you're singing. Stand so that your posture is right, so that you have enough, space to expand your rib cage. Lock the air in with the lower abdominal muscles, and then release the air gently. Okay. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah.
Taking enough air, expand the rib cage, lock it in with the lower abdominal muscles, like you tighten that, and then you start to dispense the air, keeping that abdominal region firm and tightened.
In case someone has learned it in the wrong way, how can they do correction? Can they correct that?
What I often do,
because most times people just store up the hair in the chest, up here and not there.
Yes, if they do that, they will lose it as quickly as they took it in. Yeah, it's going to go out in a big rush, and there'll be nothing left. So with the choirs I've worked with over the years, I've had.
So what were the things you told them to do to correct it?
Yeah. So the first exercise is to pretend that they are blowing a balloon. So I say to them, imagine you're blowing a balloon, and I want you to blow it in just one breath. So take the balloon. If you were going to do that, you wouldn't apply a huge amount of force at the beginning, like, otherwise the balloon wouldn't expand. You would be systematic with it. You would blow slowly and push through. And while you are pushing, if you notice, your abdominal muscles are already tensed because you've got only one chance to blow the balloon. So you keep pushing gently until the balloon is big. And all the while you've locked that pressure down there. So that's what I say to them. And they practice that. And then I say to them, practice blowing, and we're going to see how many seconds you can blow for. So take in enough air, open the rib cage, start blowing gently, and I'll see how many seconds you can go for till it's exhausted. All there is completely empty out of your lungs. The third exercise is to sing softly, oh, and see how long how many seconds they can hold it for. So I try 10 seconds, and I say to them, 12 seconds, let's go everyone. And they do 12 seconds, and I say, right, let's do 15 seconds. And they often realize quickly that they have to start softly to keep the tone so that there's some sound coming out, but stretch it enough to take them to 15. By the time we're done with the exercise, some of them get as far as 20 seconds, 25 seconds, some even more. So that's the way I would approach someone who is completely new to breathing exercises, because everyone can do that without any equipment at all. Once you've done a lot of that in terms of having some more practice, then you're ready to sing.
So we can fundamentally say that your breathing technique is very important as your voice.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Your voice is your instrument, and the air is what comes out of that instrument. It's like any other, woodwind instrument, a recorder, a flute, a saxophone, a trumpet. It's air that's that's producing the sound. So breathing is absolutely integral to good singing.
Good singing.
Yes.
Now, when you're singing or when you're learning a song, and you meet a difficult passage in the song, what do you do?
Oh, wow. Well, pretty much the same technique as when I'm playing the piano and I meet a difficult passage, I stay on that, in that bar or a couple of bars, the section, and go over it. I just make sure I practice that section over and over. And then I take a step back and take the bar before it or the section before it and see how I can get the transition into that difficult piece.
Okay.
And then again from that piece transition to the next section. And then practice the entire, piece, that whole area until it's stronger than where I want it to be.
Now, the next question is, how do you keep your voice in good shape in day-to-day living? Having done the exercises, and sometimes you have a performance and you're not just in the best shape, how do you keep yourself yourself and your voice in good shape before a performance?
Good question. The first thing I'll say is general well-being is the first step. My teacher used to say always, a tired body is a tired voice. So if you are tired, yes, you need to have enough rest. If you can take vitamin supplements, that's fine with your meal, or have a very good balanced diet, that's fine. So those are foundational to good health. And then in terms of how you sing with the right technique, right? So you're not shouting and singing in such a harsh way that it's the voice that you are forcing out rather than the sound that should come out smoothly through the voice.
Some people find it difficult to differentiate between shouting and singing. Okay. How do you differentiate?
One is pleasant to hear, the other is harsh on the ear. I mean, do you want me to?
Some hide and say they are expressing it. They scream and do all of that.
I mean, screaming is not singing.
Now, screaming on top of the range of their voice.
No, I mean, there are some techniques that often appear to be, a bit more intense in terms of the way it comes through. If you've ever heard barbershop harmony, it has a particular feel. A lot of the pop contemporary music we have today, the singers, sing in a different way. It's very different from the bel canto, the classical style. So there are some that sound like that because that's the genre of the music. If you listen to rock and someone is singing with a guitar, there's a particular harsh, hard sound because it's supposed to be heavy metal.
And is it still singing or shouting?
I think on the spectrum, it's moved away from singing in a way. It's producing sound. It's supposed to have a particular effect.
Okay.
Again, the person
So they're
singing,
kind of expressive.
Yes, it's very expressive. Yes, some people have very coarse type, voice types, and they use that in that way. Okay. But the problem with singing in that way is that you might damage that voice after a while because it wasn't really designed to do that. Okay. If I can demonstrate, can I go ahead? Yeah. So if you are using the voice, heavily rather than allowing the sound to come out, you will sound like this. Ah! Mm-hmm. That's harsh. But if it's just the voice, it will be So I've just increased the volume on the R and I've brought it back down. And it's very different from the first one, which is harsher. The first one is the voice. The second one is the sound. So you should be aiming to sustain the sound, but to suppress the voice.
Now, at this junction, you studied as a classical singer, but presently you're the music director of a contemporary choir. Now, how do you transform that technique? You know that the way contemporary music sound and the classical are different. How are you able to cross-breed, or are you able to move to that?
Okay, one of the first things that I did was or that I normally do, is to demonstrate what the sound I want to hear should be like. So I sing and they hear that. Again, I recognize that a lot of the music, the contemporary music out there today that people listen to and have easy access to, is very different in terms of style from the classical music tradition, singing. And I recognize that when they come with that. But I say to them, this is the disadvantage of trying to sound like this singer. You have a different voice, They are singing on a particular key. Your range is not...
Yeah, I always emphasize that.
It's not, so we can't do that. We may need to change the key. But again, the vocal exercises I talked about earlier, I introduced that very quickly. At choir rehearsal sessions, I start with, as often as I can. It's not always easy to do that with vocal exercises. But often because they don't have the opportunity to see what it sounds like. They may not go to the Royal Albert Hall, to hear that. So I have to demonstrate to them, this is what it should sound like. But back to your question, how did I make that transition? Because I have all that theoretical knowledge about music and sound, and I understand the needs of my, current, where I serve in terms of the music department. I try to work out what works for everyone in that group. I understand, I do the auditions when they come in. So I understand the range in terms of the voice. I do the placements. I know who is going to be in the soprano line, the alto, the tenor, the bass. And I also choose songs that it will be easy for them to deliver. So while on the one hand, I'm working on the vocal exercises and the knowledge base, because that's a big one. And there are times when I've taught about tonic solfa, just so it's easier for me to teach songs. But I also work with what they come with, because they don't have, the traditional professional education in music. So I have to understand what they have and meet them at that point, and hopefully move them beyond that point over time.
Now, you as a person that was classically trained, now you into contemporary music. As a field, do you love the contemporary music? Or, how do you reach a balance? Is it something you easily switch over to?
This is how I'd answer that. It's like you go to a buffet and you have, a menu that's filled with all sorts of things. So I like jazz. I like classical music.
And do you sing jazz?
No, not really. I mean, I remember singing Summertime. I did that once, one of the pieces, the performances at the Muson Center in Nigeria, in Lagos. Summertime and the living, that one. So I haven't done too much of jazz, but I do enjoy some of the contemporary pieces. The only thing is that it doesn't take much in terms of practice for me.
Yeah.
It's easier to deliver.
It doesn't demand on your technicalities.
No, it doesn't demand as much.
But what about the soul? What about the soul?
The soul.
Yeah, the feel.
It's got some of that as well, depending on how you deliver the song. Whether it's a solo piece, a duet, a quartet, or something that's choral. It depends on the delivery. We can always inject soul into any performance.
Okay, irrespective of the genre.
Irrespective of the genre, you can. You can always do that.
Which means it's fundamental that everybody should go through some form of training, because from what you say now, I can deduce that when you now want to sing contemporary music, because of your training, you're able to sing that with ease.
Absolutely, that's correct.
And most of the contemporary music do not have too much dynamics.
No.
They keep it more like at a flat range or trajectory up.
Yes, it's quite straightforward. Occasionally you have some transposition or some modulation, and then you come back to the key, the home key. Occasionally you have you hardly have trills. You hardly have trills.
That does nothing.
Or turns or mordents, those
flowery. But if I may just to interject you a little bit at that point, some ad-libs, some of those singers, not to mention names, they have they call it another name actually. They won't call it tones, but it's more like they sing the notes, they sing the
Achiakatura.
Achiakatura, but I don't.
I think it's a crushed note.
Something like that, or they sing the top notes down and then come to the main note.
Yes, a variation of the turn or the mordent. Yes, I've noticed that as well.
Yeah, so but for a classical singer, it's easy to hear that and just.
It's easy to produce that.
Because
you've done what's a bit more challenging than that. Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, the trill, for example, is a lot of hard work to sustain oscillating between two notes really rapidly and not lose the quality.
How do you do the trill with the voice?
Well, there are exercises for trills.
Are you able to give us something?
A trill?
Yeah.
So I've done a trill there with a little bit of a
Yeah.
twist at the end. Yes, but there are
Mm.
exercises.
Yeah.
And this is what one exercise sounds like. Ah. So you keep sort of pushing on some of those notes to get, you know, the kind of tension you need to produce the trill.
Wow.
And then you increase the pace
Yeah.
at which you deliver that, yes.
Now, you trained as a classical, and meanwhile, that was wonderful.
Thank you.
I wish I can do that, but I can do that with my fingers anyway.
Oh, yes, yes. That's your instrument, yes. Absolutely.
So, now, you play the piano for your church.
Yes.
How did you, is the transition I'm actually interested in, you know, from classical to contemporary music? I know it's quite easy to play contemporary music, you know, when you know the chords, it's just, you just keep turning around. So how did you do that?
Transition.
Because contemporary music has got its own feel. Classical has got its own feel. How did you transit into that?
Well, I would say it starts with having a good ear for sound. And I do remember as a young child, under the age of 10, actually, I was fascinated by sound and harmony. My parents are musical as well. My father played the piano. He did that right through from school. My mother sings. She's a strong alto. So I've always been surrounded by sound. And when my father was playing, or when he would play, I would just hang around in the living room, just hearing the chords. So I grew very, you know, attracted to the way that he was combining sounds to produce something really pleasing. I was really particularly fascinated with the bass line. And what that could do to the structure of sound. Now I have the words to articulate it. At the time, I didn't have the words. So it starts from there, just having that ear to appreciate sound. And then chords are an important part of that transition as well. I would say just having that very close relationship with the piano and understanding the intervals, the connections between the keys, such that if anyone starts to sing a song out of the blue and I hit a key on the piano, within a few seconds, I should be able to pick the key that person is singing on and then load it with the harmony on the chords. So once I found I was able to do that really quickly, it was easy to start to apply chords to the sound. So I started with the basic chords first, 1, 4, 5, and then transitioned to 6, and then I started to use the inversions of the chords. So this is where my classical training and the knowledge came into contemporary playing. I knew exactly what I was doing. You know, as I play, I know this is a chord 1C. It's going to be followed by a chord 5 with the 7. And then I'm going to end with a chord 1. You know, I knew exactly. And so I'm that in tune with exactly what I'm doing. So that's how I was able to transition.
How about the rhythms?
Right. With the rhythm, I think, and my friend Dr. Olorunti has, you know, enlightened me on this one. Now, I realized that I couldn't just play in crotchets if I was accompanying someone. I couldn't just hit crotchets all the time. I needed to find a way to support it in a way and communicate the rhythm, because that's different from the pulse. The pulse is a steady beat. In particular, in the choirs I'd worked with, often it starts with just the keyboard. There is no bass guitarist, so you don't have that support. There's no trumpeter. Maybe there are no drums even. So I need to find a way of combining the role of the bass guitarist and the drummer in my playing. And that's how come I've introduced, well, my kind of rhythm into my piano playing, contemporary piano playing. So my left hand is quite busy, sounding like the drums and the bass guitar. And my right hand does the chords and a bit of more rhythmic feel to the music. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah. Well, so much been said. I wish I can go on and on, But, wow, thank you so much, Yemisi. It's been a wonderful time.
Thanks
I know
for
so
having
much
me.
have been said. Actually, you're going to perform for us.
Okay.
Yeah, my audience would like to hear you perform. But that's going to be next week. She's going to be back here next week to perform for us. And and I hope it's going to be, I'm sure it's going to be a wonderful time. Thank you so much. Do you have anything to say again? You've said so much, but do you have anything to advise, any advice to the singers out there?
Well, there is so much you can do to improve on your singing, so don't settle for less. Don't settle for less. Pursue the knowledge that you need. It always makes a difference. It always makes a difference. Find a coach, find a vocal coach around you, and keep going at it. And remember to do your vocal exercises. It helps to prepare you, for any moments that you have to sing, and you'll be able to deliver on it. And lastly, stay true to the music, stay true to the intentions of the composer, and ensure that you deliver that when you're performing. All the best.
Well, thank you so much once again.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so this is Music Chat Room. Now, in case you've been watching and you are yet to subscribe to this channel, I'd like you to subscribe and also press the notification bell on this by the side of the subscription. Till I come your way another time, it's bye for now.